Before we start, if you enjoy the story, please leave a like and check if you're subscribed. The air inside the cave tasted like metal and time. Donovan Reed ran his scanner across the entrance one more time, watching the energy signature pulse stronger with each step into the darkness. 300 years of atmospheric data suggested nothing living could survive on Cathara after the mass extinction. Yet something down here generated a biological reading that made his equipment scream. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber lit by bioluminescent fungi covering the walls in flowing patterns of blue and green. Stone sarcophagi lined the space in precise rows, each carved with intricate symbols. This wasn't just a cave, it was a tomb. And in the center, standing among the dead, was something very much alive. She was watching him, had probably been watching since he entered. Donovan's hand didn't move toward his weapon. Every academic instinct cataloged details: pale skin that glowed in the dim light, hair the color of fresh blood falling past her shoulders, curved black horns rising from her temples, eyes that burned red in the shadows. Black markings spread across her skin like living ink, tracing patterns down her arms, across her collarbone, disappearing beneath the minimal dark fabric she wore. She was terrifying. She was magnificent. "You should run," she said. Her voice carried the weight of centuries. She hadn't moved, but he could feel her coiled tension from across the chamber. "Why would I do that?" He took 3 steps closer. Her head tilted slightly. "Every other living thing that has found this place has fled screaming." Every other living thing wasn't human. He crossed half the remaining distance between them. The black markings weren't tattoos. They moved beneath her skin like veins filled with shadow. Her frame was lean and deadly, yet she held herself with ancient grace. She wore something that might have been armor once, dark material molded to her body, leaving her arms and shoulders bare. "Human," she repeated, "the new species." 50 years in this sector, Donovan confirmed. He stopped 10 feet away, his eyes traveling up from her feet, over the curves of her body, lingering on the markings, finally meeting her burning gaze. "We're still learning about the civilizations that came before, like the Cathari." Something flickered across her face, pain perhaps, or memory. "The Cathari are extinct." "Are they?" He gestured with his scanner. "My equipment says otherwise." Her jaw tightened. She moved for the first time, a fluid shift that put her hand near a weapon sheathed at her thigh. "I am Vera, last guardian of the Tomb of Houses, the last of my kind, and you are trespassing on sacred ground." "Donovan Reed, and I apologize for the intrusion." He took another step. "But I've spent 5 years studying your people. I've wanted to understand the Cathari, and now I'm standing in front of the only person in the galaxy who can tell me the truth. The truth is that you should fear me." "I don't." "You should." Her voice dropped lower. "Do you know what these markings mean?" "No, but I'd like to learn." Vera stared at him with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable. Her red eyes traced over his face, down his body, studying him, looking for threat. Or something else. "You don't smell like fear," she said quietly. "Should I?" Everyone else did. Her hand lifted slowly, carefully, stopping inches from his face. "Everyone who found this place ran from me. They saw me and they screamed. They were idiots." Her fingers touched his cheek, cold against his skin. She inhaled sharply, her whole body going rigid. He held perfectly still, watching her face transform from wariness to wonder. "You're warm," she whispered. "Most humans are." He raised his own hand slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. His fingers traced the edge of one of the black markings on her shoulder, following the pattern down her arm. Her skin was smooth, cool, the marking slightly raised. "How long have you been alone here?" Her eyes closed briefly. 217 years. The number hit him like a physical blow. "That's over," he said. Her eyes snapped open. "What?" "Your isolation. It's over." He wrapped his fingers around her wrist. Her pulse beat against his palm, too slow, too cold. "I'm not running, I'm not leaving, and I'm not afraid of you." "You don't understand what you're offering." "Then explain it to me." She pulled back, turning toward the nearest sarcophagus, her fingers trailing across carved stone. "My people created an enhancement, a symbiotic organism that gave us strength, speed, healing beyond what we naturally possessed. She glanced back, red eyes glowing brighter. But it came with a price. The organism spreads through the body, slowly consuming its host. These markings, they're not decoration, they're infection. Donovan's breath caught. He looked at the patterns with new understanding, seeing how they concentrated near her heart, spreading outward. Your people died from it. They died trying to remove it. The process killed them faster than the organism would have. I'm the last because I chose to let it spread rather than kill myself fighting it. I've been slowing its progress for over 200 years through meditation, willpower, absolute isolation from anything that might trigger emotional responses. And I'm triggering emotional responses. You have no idea. Her voice carried something raw. Just standing near you, talking to you, having you touch me. The symbiote is more active now than it's been in decades. He could see it. The markings on her arms had grown darker, fresh tendrils spreading visibly across her pale skin. Then I should go. Yes. He didn't move, neither did she. The moment stretched between them. He could see her fighting something internal, the war playing out across her face. She took a step toward him, just as the first explosion echoed from the surface. Both froze. What was that? Vera demanded. Donovan pulled up his comm, hearing only static. My team, someone's attacking them. Another explosion, closer, then weapons fire. Mercenaries, Vera said, her demeanor shifting to lethal. They've found me. Found you? Every few decades, someone comes looking for the last Cathari, hoping to extract the symbiote for weaponization. She moved to a hidden panel, pressing her palm against it. Stone ground as a cache opened, revealing weapons that hummed with power. She grabbed a rifle-like device, tossing a second to him. Your team is dead or captured. Unless you want to join them, you need to come with me. The weapons fire grew louder, multiple teams moving fast. Deeper into the caves? There are passages they won't know about. Escape routes. Vera was already moving toward the back of the chamber. She glanced back, her red eyes fierce. I warned you that you should run, human. This is your last chance. Donovan looked at the tomb entrance, at the certain danger coming down. Then he looked at her, this woman who'd been alone for 2 centuries, who was fighting a monster inside her own body, who, despite everything, hadn't lost the will to survive. He thought about protocol and safety, about the smart choice. Then he thought about walking away from Vera. I'm not running, he said, checking the weapon's charge, but let's move. Something crossed her face that might have been relief. She touched his arm once, her cold fingers wrapping around his wrist. Try to keep up. Then she ran, and he followed her into the darkness as the sounds of pursuit echoed through the tomb. Vera moved through the tunnels like water, her body flowing around obstacles Donovan could barely see. He kept pace, the alien weapon clutched tight, his other hand occasionally touching the wall for balance. Behind them, voices echoed, harsh commands, the scrape of boots on stone. She stopped at a junction, her hand shooting out to press him against the wall. Her body aligned with his, cold skin against his chest, her breath quick against his neck. Quiet, she whispered. Footsteps approached from the left passage, heavy, armored. Vera's fingers found his, guiding his hand to a depression in the wall. She pressed their joined hands into it, and stone shifted silently, revealing a gap. She pulled him into the hidden passage as soldiers passed mere feet away. The space was tight. She moved ahead through the narrow corridor, her body brushing against his repeatedly as they navigated the twisting path. Each contact felt electric. The passage opened into a smaller chamber. Ancient supplies lined the walls in sealed containers. A spring bubbled in the corner, feeding a pool that drained through cracks in the floor. We rest here, Vera said, moving to the pool and drinking. Donovan joined her, drinking deeply. When he looked up, she was watching him with those red eyes. Tell me about the mercenaries. How did they know you were here? They didn't, not specifically. She settled onto a smooth stone. They knew the Cathari developed the symbiote. They knew one guardian survived. Every few decades, someone comes searching, looking for what's inside me. To weaponize it. To sell it. Do you understand what an organism like this is worth? She held up her arm, the black markings stark against her pale skin. Perfect warriors, soldiers who heal from any wound, who never tire. Every military power in the galaxy would pay fortunes. Except it kills the host. Eventually, but corporations would just breed more hosts, more soldiers, more weapons. Donovan moved closer, settling beside her. How have you survived this long? I learned to coexist with it, to suppress it through meditation, through controlling my emotions, through denying myself anything that might feed its growth. What feeds it? Adrenaline, fear, anger, she paused. Desire. The word hung between them. That's why you've been alone, Donovan said. Any emotional connection would accelerate its spread. Yes, I've spent 2 centuries allowing myself nothing, feeling nothing, just existing with my dead. It was the only way. That's not survival, that's slow death. Her head snapped toward him, something fierce in her expression. What would you have me do? Give in? Become the monster everyone thinks I am? No, he shifted closer, their shoulders touching. I'd have you live, actually live. You don't understand what you're asking. Then show me. She stared at him, the war playing out across her face. Finally, she reached out and took his hand, pressing it against her chest just below her collarbone. Her heart beat slow and cold beneath his palm, and he could feel the markings pulsing. Feel that? That's the symbiote, waiting. She kept his hand pressed there. When you touched me earlier, when we stood close, I could feel it respond. The markings spread, just from proximity to you, from wanting. She cut herself off, pulling away, but he caught her wrist. From wanting what? Don't. Vera, from wanting what? Her eyes blazed brighter. From wanting you to touch me again, from wanting to feel warmth, from wanting to be close to something that doesn't fear me. She closed her eyes. It doesn't matter. We can't. Look at me? She did, and he saw the loneliness, the hunger for connection she'd denied herself. I'm not afraid of what's inside you. You should be. Stop telling me what I should feel. He pulled her closer, his hand cupping her face. Her skin was cool, smooth, perfect. I know the risks. I understand what you are, and I'm still here. He kissed her. She went completely still for 1 heartbeat. Then she made a sound between a gasp and a sob and kissed him back with 2 centuries of starvation behind it. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, her body pressing against his. Her mouth was cold but warmed under his. She tasted like water and something sweeter, something alien and addictive. He deepened the kiss, his hand sliding into her hair, careful of her horns, and she shuddered against him. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, the markings on her arms had darkened, new tendrils spreading across her skin. She saw them too. It's spreading because of you. Then we figure it out, together. Weapon's fire cut through the chamber, closer than before. Vera grabbed her weapon. They found the hidden passages. How? Thermal scanners, or they captured someone who knows the layout. She moved to the far wall, searching. We need to move, up, to the surface. Your ship, if we can reach it, we might have a chance. Eastern Plateau's smallest vessel. Then that's our target. She triggered another hidden door, then glanced back. Something in her expression had changed. The resignation was gone. Stay close. If they corner us, I'll have to fight. And if I fight, the symbiote gets stronger. If it takes over completely, you run. Understand? Donovan picked up his weapon. I'm not running from you. Stubborn human, she muttered, but he caught the ghost of a smile. Terrifying alien, he replied. This time she definitely smiled, sharp and dangerous and beautiful. Then she led him into the passage toward the surface, and Donovan found himself grinning despite the insanity, because for the first time in 200 years, Vera wasn't alone. The passage angled upward sharply, forcing them to climb using handholds carved into the stone. Donovan's muscles burned as they ascended, but Vera moved with inhuman grace, her enhanced strength making the climb look effortless. She paused occasionally to let him catch up, her red eyes watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. They emerged into a collapsed section of what must have once been a grand temple. Moonlight spilled through the broken ceiling, casting everything in silver. The ruins of Cathara stretched in all directions, crumbling spires and shattered domes, a civilization reduced to ghosts. "There," Donovan said, pointing to the eastern plateau where his ship sat like a dark insect against the stars. 2 kilometers, exposed ground. Vera scanned the ruins with predator focus. They'll have scouts positioned. "Can we go around?" "Not fast enough. They'll cut us off." She adjusted her grip on the weapon. "We go straight through, fast and quiet until we can't be, then we fight." They moved into the ruins, using the broken buildings for cover. Donovan's heart hammered against his ribs, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Vera moved beside him, silent as shadow, and he found himself watching her as much as their surroundings. The fluid way she moved, the deadly precision in every step. The first scout never saw them coming. Vera moved like liquid death, closing the distance in 3 silent strides. Her hand clamped over his mouth as her blade found his throat. She lowered the body without a sound, then motioned Donovan forward. They made it another 100 meters before the alarm went up. Lights blazed across the ruins, voices shouted coordinates, then weapons fire erupted from 3 positions, plasma bolts chewing into stone around them. "Run!" Vera shoved him behind a collapsed wall, then returned fire with calculated bursts. Her shots found targets with impossible accuracy. 3 soldiers dropped in as many seconds. Donovan fired at movement, covering their retreat as they sprinted through the ruins. His weapon kicked against his shoulder, the alien technology responding to his intent more than his aim. A soldier appeared in a doorway, and Donovan squeezed the trigger, watching the man fall. Vera grabbed his arm, yanking him into a narrow alley between 2 buildings. "They're hurting us. 3 squads, boxing us in." "Toward what?" "Probably their commander. He'll want to see me before they take me." Her jaw tightened, and Donovan saw the markings on her neck had spread higher, creeping toward her jaw like black veins. "He'll want to verify I'm worth the cost." "We can circle back." "No time." She checked her weapon's charge, then looked at him. Something shifted in her expression, vulnerability breaking through the warrior mask. "When the fighting starts, really starts, stay behind me. Don't try to help, just survive." "Vera, promise me." Before he could answer, a voice echoed across the ruins, amplified by speakers. "Last Guardian of the Cathari. I am Silas Cade, commander of the Helix Corporation Security Division. Surrender yourself and the human lives, resist and everyone dies." Vera's fingers flexed on her weapon. "Helix. They've been hunting me for 30 years. "We can fight our way through," Donovan said. "Not without me losing control." She turned to him, and he saw fear in her eyes for the first time. The combat, the adrenaline, it's already spreading faster. If I unleash it fully, I might not come back. He grabbed her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then I'll bring you back, like before." "This is different. In that chamber, it was just a kiss. This will be—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "This will be everything the symbiote feeds on. Violence, rage, survival instinct. It will consume me." "No, it won't." He kissed her hard, tasting her sharp intake of breath. "Because I'm not letting you go, you understand? Fight however you need to fight. I'll be right there." "You can't—" "Watch me." Soldiers emerged from the ruins. 10, 15, 20. Too many. They formed a loose perimeter, weapons trained on the alley. Cade stepped through their ranks, a tall man with cold eyes and colder smile. "Last chance, Guardian. Come quietly or die loudly." Vera stepped out of the alley, and Donovan's breath caught. The markings had spread across her entire upper body now, black tendrils writhing across her pale skin like living tattoos. Her red eyes blazed brighter, almost painful to look at directly. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. "You want me, Cade? Come take me." She moved. One moment she was standing still, the next she was among them, moving too fast for Donovan's eyes to follow. Her blade flashed, her weapon fired, bodies fell. She was a storm-given form, death wearing beauty's face. A soldier aimed at her back. Donovan fired, dropping him. Another came from the left. Donovan's shot took him in the chest. Vera spun, her blade opening throats, her weapon punching holes through armor. The markings spread visibly now, racing across her skin in real time, covering her shoulders, creeping down her arms. Her movements became even faster, more violent. Cade fired, his shot catching her in the shoulder. She barely flinched. The wound sealed itself in seconds, black tendrils knitting flesh back together. Magnificent, Cade breathed. Vera closed on him. He drew a blade, meeting her attack. They moved in a deadly dance, steel ringing against steel. She was faster, but he was skilled, and the longer the fight went, the more the markings spread. They covered her neck now, reaching toward her face. Her eyes blazed brighter, her movements became less controlled, more savage. She was losing herself. "Vera!" Donovan shouted. She didn't respond. Her blade found Cade's throat, and she stood over his body, chest heaving, every inch of exposed skin now covered in writhing black patterns. The remaining soldiers backed away, terror on their faces. Vera turned toward them, and Donovan saw nothing human in her eyes, nothing that recognized him. She raised her weapon. "Vera, stop!" He ran to her, dropping his weapon, putting himself between her and the fleeing soldiers, her red eyes focused on him with predator intensity. "It's me," he said, reaching for her face. "It's Donovan. Come back." She bared her teeth, not quite a snarl, not quite human. He kissed her anyway. She went rigid, her weapon clattering to the ground. For a moment she stood frozen. Then her hands came up, gripping his arms hard enough to bruise, and she kissed him back with desperate ferocity. When they broke apart, her eyes had cleared slightly. Recognition flickered in their depths. "Donovan," she whispered, her voice was her own again. "I almost—" "But you didn't." He kept his hands on her face, grounding her. "You came back." She looked down at herself, at the markings covering every visible inch of skin. "It's too much. It's everywhere. I can feel it winning." "Then we get to my ship. Now we get help." "There is no help. My people tried for decades." "Your people weren't human." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the plateau. "We're leaving, together, and we're figuring this out." For a moment she just stared at him. Then something like hope flickered across her face, fragile and new. "Together," she repeated. They ran. The ship's ramp lowered with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the cramped interior of Donovan's research vessel. He pulled Vera inside, sealing the hatch behind them as plasma fire scorched the hull. The remaining mercenaries had regrouped, firing from the ruins. "Strap in," Donovan said, throwing himself into the pilot's seat. Vera slid into the co-pilot position, her fingers finding the harness with fumbling movements. The markings covered her completely now. Face, neck, arms, every visible surface wrapped in black patterns. Her hands trembled as she secured the restraints. The engines roared to life. Donovan pulled back on the controls and the ship lurched skyward, leaving Cathara's surface behind. Warning lights flashed across the console, damage to the rear shields, minor hull breaches, power fluctuations. "We're not going to make it far," Vera said. Her voice sounded distant, strained. "They'll have ships in orbit. Then we'll deal with them." He punched in coordinates for the nearest human outpost, 3 days away at maximum speed. "How are you holding up?" "I can feel it, inside me, trying to spread further." She held up her hands, watching the patterns writhe across her skin. "There's nowhere left for it to go except deeper, into my organs, my brain." Her red eyes met his. "When it reaches my brain, I won't be me anymore. I'll be all instinct, all hunger." "How long?" "Hours, maybe less." She laughed, bitter and broken. 200 years of fighting, and I lose it all in one night because of you." "Because you chose to fight instead of hide." "Same thing." But her expression softened. "Though I suppose if I'm going to lose myself, at least I got to feel something real first. That kiss, that touch. 2 centuries of nothing, and then you." Donovan reached across the console, taking her hand. Her skin was still cold, but not as cold as before. The markings pulsed under his fingers with their own rhythm. "You're not losing yourself? We're gonna—" The proximity alarm screamed. 3 ships dropped out of stealth, surrounding them. Military-grade interceptors, Helix Corporation markings stark against their hulls. "Told you," Vera said. The comm crackled. "Research vessel, this is Helix Command. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with lethal force." Donovan killed the comm, his mind racing through options. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and in a ship designed for archaeological surveys, not combat. The interceptors moved into formation, weapons locked. I can help, Vera said quietly. What? This ship. It's human design, but the principles are universal. She leaned forward, her fingers moving across the secondary console with sudden confidence. My people were warriors and engineers both. I know ship systems. I know tactics, and right now, I still have enough control to use that knowledge. Vera, let me do this. Let me save us. She looked at him, and he saw clarity in her eyes despite the markings covering her face. Please, let me be useful one last time before I lose myself. He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she'd be fine, that they'd figure something out. But the interceptors were closing and time was bleeding away. What do you need me to do? Her fingers flew across the controls, bringing up systems he didn't even know the ship had. When I say you'll overload the forward shields and redirect all power to engines, it'll leave us exposed for 3 seconds, but if my calculations are right, we'll have enough acceleration to punch through their formation before they can compensate. And if your calculations are wrong? Then we die together instead of separately. She flashed him a smile that was all teeth and defiance. I can think of worse endings. The lead interceptor fired a warning shot across their bow. Now, Vera said. Donovan slammed the power transfer, feeling the ship shudder as shields collapsed and engines screamed to life. They shot forward, acceleration crushing them back into their seats. The interceptors scattered, trying to track their sudden movement. Left 30 degrees, Vera commanded. He obeyed. The ship twisted, narrowly avoiding a plasma barrage. Down full burn. They dropped, the planet's gravity well catching them, pulling them into a steep dive. One interceptor followed, firing. Vera's fingers danced across the weapons console. The survey ship's mining laser, never meant for combat, sliced across space and caught the pursuer's engine. The interceptor spiraled away, trailing fire. Up! Donovan yanked back on the controls, the ship groaning under the stress. They shot back toward space, leaving the remaining interceptors behind as the engines pushed past safety limits. Jump coordinates locked, Vera said. 30 seconds until we can engage. The console showed the interceptors regrouping, moving to cut off their escape vector. 20 seconds. 15. Warning lights flashed as weapons locked onto their hull. They're firing, Donovan said. I know, hold course. Vera's voice stayed calm, but he could see her hands gripping the console, knuckles white beneath the black markings. Trust me. 10 seconds, the plasma bolts screamed toward them. 5 seconds. Vera, now. The universe stretched and snapped. Stars blurred into lines as they jumped, leaving the interceptors and their weapons fire behind. The ship shuddered, systems whining, but held together. They'd made it. Donovan let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding, glancing at Vera. She slumped in her seat, exhausted, the markings on her face pulsing rapidly. That was incredible, he said. That was desperation. She looked at her hands, watching the patterns writhe. And it cost me. The stress, the focus. I can feel it spreading deeper. I don't have much time left. He unbuckled his harness, moving to kneel beside her seat. His hands found her face, tilting her head to meet his eyes. Then we make the time count. Donovan, I'm dangerous. The more I lose control. You just saved both our lives. You're not losing control. You're adapting. He traced the markings on her cheek with his thumb. Every time you think you're going to lose yourself, something brings you back. That kiss in the cave, in the ruins. Maybe that's the answer. What answer? Connection, not isolation. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. You spent 200 years alone, starving yourself of everything that makes life worth living. Maybe that's not how you fight this. Maybe you fight it by living. By living, she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. By living, he confirmed. Then he kissed her, soft and slow, and felt her melt into it. Her hands came up to grip his shoulders, not desperate this time, but searching, savoring. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he noticed the markings on her face had stopped pulsing so frantically. It's calmer, she said, wonder in her voice. When you touch me, when we're close like this, it calms down. How is that possible? I don't know, but we're going to find out. He pulled her to her feet, leading her toward the small medical bay at the ship's rear. Come on, Let me run some scans, see if we can figure out what's happening. She followed, her hand tight in his, and for the first time since they'd met, she looked almost hopeful. Maybe impossibly they'd find a way through this. Together. The medical bay was barely larger than a closet, designed for basic field treatment rather than xenobiological research. Donovan pulled up the scanner interface while Vera perched on the examination table, watching him with those burning red eyes. "This might feel strange," he said, running the scanner along her arm. The device hummed, projecting a three-dimensional image of her internal structure. What he saw made his breath catch. The symbiote wasn't just on her skin. It threaded through her entire body, wrapped around organs, integrated with her nervous system. Black tendrils pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, so deeply merged with her biology that separating them would mean killing her. "It's worse than I thought," Vera said, reading his expression. "It's not worse, it's just complete." He adjusted the scanner settings, focusing on her cardiovascular system. "You and the symbiote aren't two separate things anymore. You're one organism. An organism that's consuming me. Or one that's evolving." He pulled up a comparison scan from the ship's database, baseline Cathari physiology from archaeological records. "Look, your heart rate, your neural activity, even your cellular regeneration, everything's enhanced. The symbiote isn't killing you, it's transforming you." "Into what?" "I don't know yet." He set down the scanner, moving to stand between her knees. His hand settled on her thighs, feeling the cool skin beneath the black markings. "But I think what happened earlier, when you calmed down, I think physical contact affects it somehow." "You're theorizing based on one data point." "Then let's get more data." He leaned in, his lips finding her neck just below her jaw. She inhaled sharply, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders. "Watch the monitor," he said against her skin. The holographic display showed her physiology in real time. As his mouth moved along her throat, as his hands slid up her sides, the symbiote's activity changed. The frantic pulsing slowed. The black tendrils in her bloodstream moved less erratically. "It's responding," Vera breathed, "to you, to this. Your people tried to fight it with isolation, with suppression." He pulled back to look at her, his hands framing her face. "What if that's exactly wrong? What if the symbiote needs emotional input to stabilize?" "That makes no sense. Emotion feeds it. Adrenaline makes it spread." "Negative emotion, fear, anger, combat stress." His thumb traced the marking on her cheekbone. "But this is different. Look at the readings." She turned to study the display, and he watched understanding dawn across her features. The symbiote's integration patterns had shifted. Where before it showed chaotic expansion, now it displayed something closer to homeostasis. Still present, still active, but controlled. "It's seeking equilibrium," she said slowly. "The organism isn't trying to consume me, it's trying to balance with me. But 200 years of emotional starvation gave it nothing to balance against except survival instinct." "Exactly." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and felt her respond with 2 centuries of hunger channeled into something focused and fierce. Her legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer. The thin fabric between them felt like an unbearable barrier. "We should keep testing," she murmured against his mouth. "Rigorous scientific method," he agreed, his hands finding the fastenings of her armor. She helped him, fingers working with enhanced speed, and then her skin was bare under his hands. The markings covered every inch of her, shoulders, breasts, stomach, thighs, writhing patterns that pulsed with each racing heartbeat. She was alien and familiar all at once, cool skin warming where he touched, red eyes blazing as she pulled at his clothes with the same desperate urgency. When they came together, it was fierce and consuming, 200 years of isolation, shattering against human warmth. She moved with inhuman grace and strength, but her gasps were achingly vulnerable, her hands clutching at him like he might disappear. He anchored her, kept her grounded, whispered her name against her skin until she shuddered and cried out. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the too small examination table, both breathing hard. The medical display still showed her vitals, and Donovan forced himself to focus on it, despite the exhaustion pulling at him. The symbiote had stabilized completely. Look, he said, tilting the display so she could see. Vera studied it, her expression transforming from satiated to shocked. It's dormant, not dead, but sleeping. How long? Since about 3 minutes ago. He traced a marking on her shoulder, following its path. Right around when you... Yes, I remember. She laughed, the sound startled and genuine. So what, I need to have exceptional experiences to keep the symbiote controlled? That's the solution my people spent decades searching for? Not exceptional experiences, connection. He pulled her closer, feeling her cool body warming against his. Human biochemistry might be part of it. We produce oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, neurochemicals your species might not have. When we're intimate, when there's emotional and physical bonding, those chemicals transfer through contact. The symbiote responds to them. So I need a human. She said it clinically, but he heard the vulnerability beneath. You need me, he corrected, specifically, because it's not just the biochemistry, it's the connection we've built, the trust, He hesitated. The what? Whatever this is between us. He met her eyes. It started the moment I walked into that tomb. I don't believe in fate, Vera, but I believe in this, in us. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Finally, she spoke. 217 years I survived alone, and then you walked in and changed everything in a single day. Regrets? Not one. She kissed him, soft and lingering. Though my people would be horrified to know their great guardian secret, their desperate survival technique boils down to falling in love with a human. The word hung between them, too large and too true. Is that what this is? He asked. I don't know what else to call it. She sat up, the markings on her skin still visible, but calmer now, almost decorative. I've been alone so long, I forgot what it felt like to want someone's presence, to crave their touch, to feel safe. Her red eyes found his. You make me feel safe, Donovan Reed, even with a monster living inside me. You're not a monster. You never were. He pulled her back down beside him. You're just someone who needed to stop fighting alone. They lay together in comfortable silence as the ship traveled through the dark. The medical readouts showed stable vitals, controlled symbiote integration, and something that looked remarkably like a healthy alien-human bond. What happens now? Vera asked eventually. Now we get you to human medical facilities. We document this. We figure out if other humans can have the same effect, or if it's just us. He paused, and we make sure no corporation ever gets their hands on you or your symbiote. They'll keep trying. Helix won't stop. Then we'll keep fighting. He kissed her temple. Together. Together, she repeated, and this time the word sounded like a promise. The ship's computer chimed, announcing their approach to the human outpost. Donovan sat up reluctantly, helping Vera dress before moving to the cockpit. She followed, settling into the co-pilot seat with easy familiarity. The outpost appeared on their screens, a small station orbiting a gas giant, home to maybe 300 humans conducting deep space research. Think they'll accept me? Vera asked, watching the station grow larger. They're scientists. They'll be fascinated. He reached across to take her hand, and anyone who has a problem with you will answer to me. She squeezed his fingers, then released them to help with the docking procedures. Her knowledge of ship systems, combined with his piloting, brought them smoothly into the station's bay. As the airlock cycled, Vera stood and turned to him. The markings still covered her skin, her horns still curved from her temples, her eyes still burned red. She looked exactly like what she was: alien, dangerous, other. And absolutely beautiful. Ready? He asked. She took his hand, threading their fingers together. With you? Yes. They stepped through the airlock into their future, uncertain, complicated, but faced together. Behind them, 200 years of isolation and pain. Ahead, a life neither had expected, but both would fight to keep. The last guardian of the Cathari was alone no more. And somehow, impossibly, that changed everything.